To remain updated with the latest business news, click on the bell icon.
One of the first and the most influential private bankers in India, Uday Kotak has built the Kotak Mahindra Bank from a small NBFC to a financial supermarket. Nykaa's founder and CEO, Falguni Nair, worked under Uday Kotak as the investment banking head for nearly 2 decades. 7-time winner of the Business Today Most Powerful Woman Award, Shanti Ekambaram, President, Consumer Banking, is another professional groomed by Kotak. As the head of SEBI's panel on corporate governance, Kotak was instrumental in getting women a foothold in corporate boardrooms. The move has gone a long way in improving the gender diversity ratio on Indian company boards.
Good evening, Namaskar. Warm welcome to Uday Kotak. Always a pleasure to have you on the stage and on this very important topic. And before I do that, warm welcome Mr. Thackeray for being here with us. And we'll get to hear him with my colleague Rahul Kamal shortly. But once again, I want to begin, Mr. Kotak, on the subject, and as you know, most powerful women. And I think every woman in India is a powerhouse by herself. These awards signify and represent some of them. But for a population of the size of India, obviously, the numbers are going to be far higher. For my audience, just a few numbers in terms of the people that we have. Almost 45% of all startups in India, and we know that we are currently in some ways the unicorn capital of the world, at least the developing world, the emerging markets, are either founded or largely peopled and driven by women entrepreneurs and managers. So that's a number of around 45% of 50,000 startups. A round of applause if the audience can give, and we hope that this number keeps going up. Mr. Kotak, I'm going to begin and try and keep it as rapid and quick as is possible. How many women work for the bank that you founded and have led so successfully into a marquee name?
We have got a total workforce which is now more than 80,000 people in totality. And our current ratio is 26%. And we aspire to take it to a third in the next 3 years.
Wow, a round of applause for that. And how does that compare with peers in the banking space?
I think a lot of them are in the early 20s. Some of them are in the late teens. But I think we are pretty much at a reasonable ratio, but there is clearly room to improve. And again, there, Siddharth, it's about stereotypes. The belief is that there are certain kinds of jobs in a bank which a woman can't do.
This was the PSU bank stereotype.
PSU banks and even in private sector banks. And let me give you one example.
Keep the mic closer.
Let me give you one example. The example of collections. So one of the very important aspects which a bank has to do is to collect the money it has lent. So the stereotype is, oh, for a collections job, it has to be a male. So we have actually now found that women not only are effective in the job, in fact, they are better. And we have also tried it in rural and semi-urban India, and it is turning out to be very effective. For doing a job which was a male stereotype job of collections.
So collection is not about muscle, it's all about mind and presence.
Absolutely.
Okay, what about borrowing? Because I remember talking to bankers and also on the field, especially in the small finance sector, and a lot of them say women make good borrowers. They return the money on time. Is that correct?
I think there are a number of other areas where women actually score better. One is commitment to repay a loan.
Okay.
And that is clearly superior. Second is stickiness in the job. The attrition ratio of women is much lower than men, at least at Kotak.
Okay.
And it's something which we find quite fascinating. And as long as we can find innovative ways of women growing, for example, flexibility on work hours. And one of the things which COVID has dramatically made it possible is flexibility on work hours. And if we expand that scope and make it even flexi time, say 2 or 3 times a week to come to work and balance work from home, I think it's going to dramatically increase the participation of women in the workforce.
Since you talk about these things, I also have to ask you, not just for your bank, but for the industry and your general view, are women compensated equally with men in India?
Why do you ask that question? I don't think it's a question you need to ask, because at least that's what I feel, that most progressive organizations don't really distinguish between a man and a woman when it comes to pay.
But would all organizations be called progressive in India?
You know, it's a matter of opinion, and I suppose some of them can get better. But in general, I don't think there is any differentiation between a man and a woman when it comes to compensation, and it's broadly based on performance in most organizations.
How would you compare us globally? I don't like those comparisons, but I still have to ask you this.
I think we are getting better,
Okay.
but there is long way. And I think what is happening is, as we go down the curve in terms of the size of companies, at smaller companies, I think there could still be areas of differentiation on gender. But as you get larger, and most organizations are getting to be actually finding it far more efficient and effective to have a larger woman workforce.
You're a billionaire banker, and I'm looking at my phone so that I try and get this pronunciation right. This is a line that I heard when I did several events on the ground with Smriti Irani, and that was a series called Women Mean Business in the hinterland of India. And one of the lines that someone in the audience said, a homemaker from a rich business family, she said that my husband told me in response to a question, Stri Asu Manne Marwa Mango Che. The context, maybe I didn't get the pronunciation right, and please excuse my Gujarati for that. The context was that this woman stood up and said, I belong to a business family, and you know, we are an old business family, yet when I asked my husband about whether he has done a will and whether he has decided to do what with his property after he passes away, my husband got very upset and said, woman, do you want me to die? Does that represent an attitude in business families? What would you say to that?
I think changed, and are changing. I would say today's times, I think it's getting to be much more progressive. I would say most families who have children, I think they treat them equally. And I think it's a fast changing landscape. There is again a stereotype mindset about how we have thought about in the past, but the barriers are getting broken.
Mr. Kotak, would I be right in saying, anecdotally, I don't have data for this, that women are less insured than men despite contributing equally and more?
I don't have data, but all that I can say is that in general, women live longer.
Okay.
And
so
therefore are a better insurance bet. And I see Vibha here, that probably she will agree with that, that they are safer risk from an insurance point of view.
So if they are safer risk, should they get a lower rate of interest?
I think so. And
But sir, you are a billionaire banker. You run one of the most digital-friendly great banks. I'm asking you this as the CEO of the bank.
as a CEO of the bank, I can tell you that we are delighted to have a digital account, and we don't check gender when somebody opens an account.
Okay, what about low interest rates?
If at all, it's
Give
the
a
reverse.
small discount, sir.
You know, my point is that let's not have a situation where women need to get favors. Let them feel that they are on merits and they are equal to men in every respect and no special treatment. Having said that, I do believe that we need to do our bit to ensure that merit is ensuring involvement of women in the process.
Sir, you have groomed so many women and men leaders in your career. Is there a bias against women in the finance sector, in the high stakes world of finance? And do they suffer from financial literacy due to our education system?
Historically, yes, but going forward, no. And I'm actually quite hopeful and bullish, and especially in a country where we've just seen some of the major elections get over, and India today, I have to commend India today for getting it right, much more right than others. And I'm told one of the decisive factors in the election was the woman voter.
Yes, absolutely. I'll come back to those on-ground events, and men who were in the audience, one of them stood up, and again, this was Gujarati, so I'm translating it. He said, it doesn't work for me to mingle my business and my money with my wife. I'm devoted to her. Everything that I've got is because of her, Lakshmi. But I don't want it to get mixed up with her. It causes me too much stress.
You know, I again share something from my life. Whenever I have to take any major decision, it's the instinct of my wife which finally helps me make the call.
So is that the secret financial
There is no
sauce
question.
for your great
There
success?
is no question, and I will share a story here. A long time ago, we were joint venture partners with Goldman Sachs, and we were at a critical moment when we had to decide either buy back our stake or sell our stake at a fancy valuation to Goldman Sachs. And I was struggling. I was awake in the middle of the night, doing my mathematics, which is a better deal, and struggling with it. And my wife, she saw the light, and she was getting disturbed. So she woke up and said, "What is this light for?" So I said, "I'm struggling with this." So she switched off the light and said, "Go ahead and buy your stake back."
Wow.
That's what I did.
Okay, and history was made. Since we're talking about women, I want to ask you, do you see a woman succeeding you at the bank?
It's, you know, again, in today's times, it's always dangerous to say either ways. It is going to be a process, and the best person gets it.
The best person. We'll hope that truly the best person gets it. My last question, and I know I'm running out of time, but I'll just take a minute with this because I can't let you go without that. The last 5-6 years, as far as India's corporate culture is concerned, have seen one defining moment, and that is the bankruptcy and insolvency law. Storied names being sort of thrown into the Arabian Sea, practically. Has the culture of doing business in India changed on account of that law?
There is no question. Many promoters who thought that they could get away without repaying their debts have realized that they will be out of business and ability to do business if they don't repay their debts. And it has significantly improved the culture of people wanting to pay back. And on that note, since we are talking about women, I've rarely seen a major IBC case with a woman going to bankruptcy.
Okay, that's a great word, and a round of applause. And one final word to all those aspiring young women in engineering colleges, in management schools, and we get to meet them and talk to them a lot, who want to be entrepreneurs. Uday Kotak, what would you tell to them, those who are here and those who are watching and hearing this program?
You know, my advice is go for it. And I have the story of a lady who has made great success, which is Falguni. And I still remember in 2011, after being the CEO of our investment bank, she came to me and said, Uday, I want to leave and start something on my own. So I said, what do you want to start? She said, I'm not going to compete with you, but I've thought about an idea which is in the area of beauty and the internet. I gave her a strange look, asked her whether she really knew what she was doing, and she's got a very successful career here. But she said, no, I want to do a startup. And I've thought about the name of the company, which in Sanskrit means a beauty queen, which is Nykaa.
That's the Nykaa story. Uday
Okay.
Kotak, it's always a pleasure talking to you. We are unfortunately out of time, but perhaps once again next year or maybe the year
Thank
after.
you.
A round of applause for Uday Kotak, ladies and
Thank you
gentlemen.
very much.
Thank
Thank
you very
you.
much.
If you like the video, do like, comment, share and subscribe.